Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh reacts to Donald Trump considering moving marijuana down to a Schedule 3 drug. Democrat Councilman Abu Musa allegedly shown ballot stuffing in a race where he won by less than 100 votes. TikToker says to kill DC police. Gordon Murray brings us to SLMM, an ode to the iconic McLaren F1. And ESR Halolock wireless chargers are being recalled. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT, value-added reseller and service company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's your joke. If you're an IT there or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapters. You can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you could tell your friends and tell your enemies to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part podcast, you have Gordon Murray bringing us yet another iconic sports car. This one, the S1LM, which is an ode to the McLaren F1, which I was going to say, it's worth revisiting that. The most iconic car in history. 12 cylinders of glory, only delivered through a beautiful manual transmission. It was a car so good, a road car so great, that they took it to Le Mans and won. It is iconic, to say the least. And of course, if I won the lottery, I'd definitely get one, which you'd probably have to, considering I think there's less than 76 registered out there. In terms of the LM or the super racing one, well, there's like, what, like 3 or 4. So yeah, they're one of the best cars ever made, bar none. So advanced. It held the world record for top speed for, I think, more than any other car in history. And it is just so beautiful. Probably best known for being the weird car where you actually sit in the middle, and then you have 2 passenger seats behind you on your left and right. And there's not a single picture of McLaren F1 that doesn't look just awe-inspiring and breathtaking. And now he's taking it to the next level. Now it's credited to specifically Motor1.com, Brian Silvestro. He says, quote, Gordon Murray essentially resurrected the F1 GTR, and now it's perfect. The SLLM is GMA's first ultra-low volume special built for customer obsessed with the McLaren F1 win at Le Mans, which I still think this looks better than Gordon Murray's latest iteration, because this one looks the body panels, the design looks so much more familiar with the iconic F1. And especially the rear, that bumper. I mean, look at that. It's updated just a little bit, but just enough for you to appreciate it being a little bit more modern, but still having an ode to the original design. Although, unfortunately, I don't think those rear taillights are taking off a transportation bus. Probably not. That's a little fun fact of the day. The McLaren F1, most expensive, best car in history. Yeah, the taillights are from a bus. But nevertheless, down in the article, it says, quote, Gordon Murray Automotive is getting into the business of ultra-low volume specials, a growing trend in ultra-exotic space. The S1LM is the first product, alongside the Le Mans GTR, to emerge from the company's special vehicles subsidiary, and just about the coolest thing to come at the Monterey Car Week. Based on the bones of the T50 GMA, which, I mean, that was really his next iteration on the McLaren F1. Well, obviously without the McLaren logo plastered upon it, but I don't know, it looked to me too futuristic. You could tell it was kind of inspired by the F1, but this one is so much better, such a much better homage to it. Now, they say that, quote, it also has based on the bones of the T50, GMA describes the S1LM as having a hardcore track first setup that pays homage to the ageless beauty of Murray's original Le Mans winning design. I could just look at that all day. It looks amazing. The S1LM reimagines several of the Le Mans winning F1 GTR's design elements, like the roof-mounted intake and a centrally mounted quad exhaust. Yeah, that looks so much better. Again, the updated one, that's got the quad exhaust like in the middle of the bumper, which it looks unique and cool like as a standalone car, but to me, again, this is what it should have been all along. Now, it also has adding things such as a split rear wing. From the angles, it looks identical to the car that took victory 30 years ago. Well, let's get the interior of this going down here. Look at that thing of beauty. So rare to see that. That's perfection. Now, they say that, quote, S1 LM is a track car first, according to the GMA, and a new, stiffer suspension, a solid-mounted engine. The sizable splitter, paired with that wing and large diffuser, promises real downforce. Like all GMA road cars, the S1 LM will have a naturally aspirated V12 and a 6-speed manual transmission. Oh, yeah. As every car should be by default. I mean, that is, again, I just marvel about that because it's so rare in cars these days. It's the best driving experience. You cannot beat that feeling in life of downshifting into a corner with a manual transmission vehicle at the track or on the way to the Walmart. Either way, it's a great experience. Although, I don't know. I feel like this is a bougie. It looks like there's some pseudo-upholstered leather on the dash, which most of the dashboard is carbon fiber. I mean, if this is, again, this is one of the best performance cars, I'm sure. But I don't know, that's a little bougie. It's not utilitarian as I think it should be to be a pure driver's car. But nevertheless, that's not the point. Now they say that, again, it's got the naturally aspirated V12 with a 6-speed manual transmission. This one's been punched up to 4.3 liters, with the company estimating a power output of 690 horsepower. GMA plans to build just 5 examples of the S1 LM. Damn. Wow. All 5 of them going to a single client for a, quote, undisclosed price, which, yeah, that's where you get, it's like I can't imagine, I can't fathom the amount of wealth where the price is basically, well, obviously they're not disclosing it here, but I'm sure the price was, if you actually ask, you can't afford it. That's so true, especially for like these one-offs, or in this case, very small volume. And it's smart because, again, this is going to be highly profitable for Gordon Murray and his company. Obviously, the more customization for things, the more you pay for it. And oh dear God, is that green my favorite car color? There's not a single angle. This car does not look like a piece of art. Awesome, amazing. Now, again, they sold with 5 going to a single client. We wouldn't be surprised to see if someone is trying to start their own miniature racing series with their friends. Hell, that's what I'd do if I had that kind of money. Deliveries are set to begin in 2026. Of course, it won't be the last of a few off the brand. I say that the Gordon Murray group has been driving perfection, lightweight engineering art exclusively at the core of everything it does. CEO Phil Lee said in a statement, GM SV allows us to explore these core trends. Fueled by the enthusiasm and imagination of our customers, we are already working with more models and looking forward to partnering with the world's most passionate driving enthusiasts to create more automotive works of art, which, again, this truly does look like a work of art on wheels. And I would argue, personally, 1,000 times better than a Koenigsegg or a Pagani. It's just one of those things where those cars, they are works of art. They're fancy. Most of them are, I would argue, soulless machines, just automatic transmissions. Those will barely ever see the track. This is a pure track toy. And I can't imagine you have so much money where this is your track toy. Or again, most track toys don't have insurance because it's so prohibitively expensive to have insurance for the track. Usually you don't get that until your car's worth like 6 figures plus. Yeah, I can't imagine having or if they have the insurance policy on this car, geez Louise. That's gotta be just comical. And it's just, I don't know, it makes me smile knowing there's still these marvels of engineering out there. Again, I still think this is what Gordon Murray should have made from the beginning for his, next car from the F1 decades later. Again, this looks, it just looks perfect. Even the trunk. Looks like they still have that iconic gold foil on the trunk, which is used as a heat dissipator because it gets so hot. Like, everything about the car is just pure engineering, pure driving enthusiasm. Look on YouTube. There's documentaries on the F1, nearly endless in quantity. And yeah, some of the coolest automotive news I've heard all year. I'm just definitely one of those things where, like, yeah, if I won the lottery and, I already have the house paid off, I already got all the important things taken care of. Oh yeah, this would definitely be in my dream garage. And I can only fathom, what is it, $7+ million for these vehicles at least? If I were to guess. But let me know in the comments, if you won the lottery, would you buy one of these marvels of engineering, or would you buy a different vehicle? Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Power Podcast, you have a TikToker say to kill DC cops and going viral on social media. This is brought to us thanks to End Wokeness, which he says, quote, TikToker calls for her followers to kill cops in DC to, quote, take care of them. And I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer on the screen, or a visual warning on the screen. There's actually someone on the screen debatably more viscerally disgusting than I. She is about 5,000 pounds, give or take, though I would argue she's more ugly on the inside based, on her mentally vacuous statements. She's left because she has large, stupid-looking glasses, which always boggles my mind. There's thousands of glasses out there, granted made by like 2 companies, but there's so many options, and yet leftists always choose the most unattractive glasses out there. It merely boggles the mind. But nevertheless, perhaps she will give a very articulate reason as to why. Oh, obviously not, but we'll hear what she has to say.
Black people in DC, get your and take care of them police officers like they should have been taken care of 50 years ago.
I guess that was hashtag. Well, I can't even say that word because it's so pejoratively, not kid-friendly for her username, though I'm not surprised. And she is, if you're not watching on the Rumble or YouTube, you're missing out on, well, you're actually very blessed because you don't have to see her face and see her, but you are missing the visual of her using the hand gesture for a pistol, which, yeah, well, I don't think this actually meets the threshold of her getting arrested or actually in trouble in terms of her articulating a specific time and place. I think that also varies state by state basis in terms of, what is that limitation, freedom of speech versus actual threat, legally speaking. But yeah, pretty mentally vacuous of her to say that, and got about 500,000 views and 10,000 likes. One of the first comments come to us thanks to, well, I'm a little biased, someone who's handsome and brilliant. Me, the topping show, I say, quote, the only thing she should take care of is her diet, LOL, getting 4 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, arrest this woman immediately, getting 455 likes. Planet of Memes, a little disappointed. It seems like for weeks, the Planet of Memes, or as I call them, the Planet of Memes, have not given us any memes. A little disappointed. Planet of Memes, alleged Planet of Memes is what I should call him. He says, quote, these folks are hinged, getting 204 likes, which the only thing that again, caught me off guard was I was surprised she didn't have a 12 gauge or greater cowering on her nose. That was oddly enough absent. That is usually on all leftist women. The conservative alternative says, quote, hey, FBI Director Kash Patel, I know you're busy, but you may want to pay this lady a visit. And it's a picture of Kash Patel saying, sounds a little like treason, getting 745 likes. In Kash Patel's defense, he's very, very busy getting those Epstein files. I'm sure he's working very hard to find those. Yeah, that was I don't know if that was dark humor or just utter disdain for his lack of performance with actually releasing those files. Yeah, we'll see if anything ever happens in that regard. That did get 745 likes. The Recap Media TM said, quote, paging FBI, getting 73 likes. Amelia Henderson says, quote, only in this woke circus could some TikToker reject, openly call for killing cops and still roam free. 1 arrest and 1 long prison stretch would fix her fast, getting 133 likes, which I believe they still have hard labor in prisons too. I don't think they actually, break rocks, although I think they should do more physical labor, at least make them break even in terms of cost to the taxpayer. But she might even get in shape if she went to prison. That'd be an upside. David Santa Clara simply has Charles Xavier from X-Men doing the head thinking thing, getting 61 likes. Basic Electrician says, quote, whoops, shouldn't have said that. It's a screenshot of her with the hand gesture for the clicking, or, for shooting a gun, getting 166 likes. Old Moose American says, quote, liberals, there's no crime in DC. Also liberals, murder the police, getting 1.5 thousand likes. Whoa. Combat Monkey says, quote, pretty sure that constitutes a threat or threat to violence, FBI. And he also tags AG Pam Bondi. I'm sure she'll do a lot of good. I'm sure she'll be Johnny on the spot for justice. Yeah, Pam Bondi. I have the files. Wait, what files? What are you talking about? Let's just say, yeah, another disappointing person. We'll see if she comes through for us. I'm pretty damn skeptical, though. That got 1.3 thousand likes. George Bliss says, quote, she's inciting violence, which is a crime. Arrest her, this asshole now, getting 1.6 thousand likes. John Farish says she should be arrested immediately, getting 2.8 thousand likes. Evil Texan says, what she needs to start is shooting his Exempic, getting 1,000 likes. Cartier Family says, gotta start arresting people for this game, 1 thousand likes. The Cruisin', he says, upholding stereotypes, and it's Bobby Hill from King of the Hill, and he's holding, it's a meme or meme, as some people call it, where he's holding up a piece of paper to the glass. He says, blacks are violent. And then Prince says, if those kids could read, they'd be very upset, getting 380 likes. He's scrolling down more and more. Iago Madeira says, quote, I wish they were still alive to see just how far they've come. Which, he has pictures of some African-American men from, was it 1940s or 30s, dressed up in suits and dressed up in suits and hats. And then he's juxtapositioned with a picture of 2 African-American men. I think he's holding a 40, and they're wearing pants in which, if they have belts, they are certainly not utilizing the belt for its intended purpose because the pants are, below their waist by about a foot. And they're wearing a bandana, and I believe that what's the undershirt called? Wife beater. And I got 85 likes, which, I mean, white people too, in terms of the culture shift and dressing, is pretty pathetic how far as a culture we fall in the United States. I mean, you look at Walmart, which I like because they got the cheapest price point for a lot of the staples you need, like, egg whites and beef and, vegetables. But like, now I almost feel like a fashion aficionado when I shop there because I'm such a workaholic. Inevitably, I'll be grocery shopping on the way back from a customer meeting. So I'll be suited up, well, with jeans though. But yeah, like you go to Walmart and dear God, even when I was in college, there's the website facesofwalmart.com. You got people in sweatpants and clothing with stains all over it. I mean, some people just disintegrating in front of you, apparently, with a piece of garbage falling out of their pocket. I've seen that. Jeez Louise. And so I think all cultures in the United States have greatly decreased their effort they put into, personal appearance and suiting up or lack thereof. But yeah, it seems like Walmart unites every race in terms of, like, it almost seems like you lose your fashion sense when you go there. And again, I shop at Walmart. So, but yeah, I mean, gentlemen used to suit up. Just look at the old airline pictures of people going on the airplane. People look their Sunday best. That used to be a thing. But yeah, I probably made too long of a point on that one comment. But yeah, it's disappointing to see pretty much all cultures dress pathetically. And again, it's not my thing. If you go to Goodwill, you can get a nice suit for under $50, I think. Or just be like me, buy like one suit every 15 years and get an ROI out of it. You also have Grim saying, well, okay, she needs to be sent to jail immediately, getting 320 likes. Let's see. Jody Allen says, checking in on Democrats to see if they've calmed down yet. And it's a girl from, what horror movie is that? I forget. Said, I guess not, getting 222 likes. Let's see. So, yeah, we'll see if she actually does get prosecuted. Pretty skeptical these days, especially with the Department of Justice doing a couple things, but in my opinion, not a lot. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Matt Walsh reacting to Donald Trump considering moving marijuana down to a Schedule 3 drug. This is also Matt Walsh responding to Czech Uyghur, which I think I'm pronouncing him right. Now, Czech Uyghur says, quote, Trump is considering moving marijuana down to a Schedule 3 drug, but guys like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles are against legalizing marijuana. Good. It'll make them more unpopular because that's a mental position. Most Americans believe in freedom and are for legalization. Now, Cenk Uyghur got 1.2 million views and 2.5 thousand likes. And let's say about 50-50. About 50-50 in terms of, yes or no with Cenk Uyghur. Now, Matt Walsh responded saying, quote, Cenk, can you please cite an example of a single American city that has been measurably improved by marijuana legalization? I can think of a bunch that have been turned into even more disgusting, unlivable, reeking cesspools. I'm not aware of any counterexamples. Please provide one. Which, that got 1.1 million views and 15,000 likes. Now, I mean, it would still be illegal in terms of schedule the drug. It'd be much lesser. And this idea has been thrown around in politics for years. And it's one of those things where I think most Americans are becoming more libertarian on the topic of marijuana. That being said, I think Matt has a point. A lot of these cities, and again, there's also confirmation bias because a lot of these cities are, well, most of them are run by radical leftists where they're already lawless to begin with. But you look at the rates of increasing use of marijuana has become more legalized in many on a state level. I do wonder, is that really better for family environments, for towns and cities? It's one of those things where I don't see much of an upside. Now, again, I understand, I'm not a doctor. Yeah, I mean, these days I might even debate it more ethical than one, considering how many of them get kickbacks for drugs. But nevertheless, it's an instance where I know some studies show that there are benefits, especially if you're in chemo. I mean, it helps, with munchies, yada, yada. There are some therapeutic uses for it, and there are some studies showing that there are benefits to it. I mean, personally, I'm not for it, but again, I know some people are very much into that. They're very much in the CBD oils and all those other things, which again, in some cases help. But it's an instance where, could this be like California, or California as normal people call it, where in their city, different topic, but somewhat similar idea in terms of decreasing the penalty for something. In California, they voted to basically take something that used to be a felony, if you stole up to $950, and they changed that. They knocked it down to a misdemeanor. And because of the public justice system there, you always usually plead down because it's very much a volume business. They'd rather have you plead down than go to court and actually go through the trial. In California, believe it or not, it became worse, which many people thought wasn't possible. But those shitties become even worse with more theft, more lawlessness, more crime. And after that law passed, it got even worse again, with all those things exponentially increasing, so much so that thousands of businesses left and millions of people left. And I do wonder, again, this would still be legal, it's just changing the classification a little bit. Would this be a case where we get even more usage of it? What would that be for society? What would it be for the United States culturally for that to happen? I know a lot of people will say, well, it's better than Big Pharma. You know what? In many instances, yeah, kind of agree. We've seen, especially when it comes to painkillers, how they lied to the American public and killed millions of Americans, saying, oh yeah, that's not addictive, you'll be fine. Yeah, it's we all remember that. Yeah, we all remember what Big Pharma has done. And that is an upside. Maybe in some cases, marijuana could be used instead of those expensive pills that have a myriad of side effects. Granted, so does marijuana. Everything in the world has a side effect. But I do wonder, would it improve a city? A lot of people point to the statistics on, we spent so much money fighting the drug wars. We spent that might be reinvested in the community, which I don't really buy that fiscal argument, because every time the government does anything saying we'll save money, that money is always wasted. And it's never enough, because the government just steals more and more of our money. I mean, that was the idea of the lottery in the United States. Back in the day, they actually would fund part of the government and part of buildings by having local lotteries. Now, the lottery that we know today, like the Mega Millions and Powerball, all that crap, well, the states would say, oh yeah, if you give us this money, you will steal half the lottery, so we win every time, and it'll be used for schools and all these types of things. Then we don't want to raise taxes. Guess what? Okay, lottery got passed. Some of it still goes to school, but guess what? It didn't decrease our taxes. Everyone just got taxed even more. Like, it's never enough. So I don't really buy that fiscal argument of, oh yeah, we'll save money if we don't prosecute crime in that way. I'm not buying that argument. And there are some people, and marijuana, potheads will never admit this, but there are a lot of negative side effects. There's some negative side effects of marijuana as well. A lot of people become hopelessly addicted to it. Also, bad cases increases schizophrenia. There are some downsides to it. I feel like no one is willing to talk about, because everyone always just wants to be groovy and hip, which, yeah, those are obviously outdated, hilarious terms that I intentionally chose. But would it actually make life better in the United States? I think maybe it'd be a state-by-state basis. Maybe they get it, but would we get more of it? Because again, Matt makes a point, we've seen these cities where they get worse. Again, it might be a little bit of a contributing factor. These cities being run by leftists. But when you make something legal, more people will use it. And you see in areas, because again, at state level, there are some states legalizing it for not just medical use, but some personal use. The rates of usage do increase. And who knows, maybe in 20 years, you see the youngsters, or you see the different demographics of usage of substances, they're not using alcohol, really. The alcohol usage rate in the United States is crashing, I would argue, because it's expensive and a waste of time, on average, who has two very rare things these days. Time and money, why waste it on alcohol? Maybe they shift and start using marijuana, which, again, some people say, you don't have a hangover the next day. And it will be interesting to see when we start looking at some long-term studies of it. But maybe I'm alone in this assessment. Maybe everyone in the comments is going to roast Matt and say, no, we all need marijuana. It's the best thing in the world. Which, again, there are some good medical uses to it, but let's dive in the comments. The conservative alternative says, quote, I'm against legalization/decriminalization but I believe cannabis should be Schedule 2 instead of Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is for drugs that are highly addictive and have no medical value, neither of which applies to cannabis. We must simply abide by the truth, getting 50 likes, which, yeah, it is pretty crazy that it's on the same schedule as like cocaine and like all the hardcore stuff. Yeah, let's see here. And I was going to say, we'll see if half the comments of this video are talking about William Randolph Hearst and all that. Because again, there are reasons why it was banned at the beginning. Arcal Walsh says, which city, clown? And it's a map of the United States. It shows how many states allow for adult use versus medical and decriminalized, or CBD criminalized, medical, then CBD. I got 26 likes. Jerry Tanner says, Matt, correlation does not mean causation. Those cities are largely run by Democrats, and therein lies the problem, not the weed. Game 573 likes. Conservative from Boulder, they exist? I gotta follow this guy. Am I already? I think I am. Oh, I'm gonna give him a follow. I thought there's like 3 conservatives in Colorado. We found one of them. I'm only partially kidding. Like he says, quote, Coloradan, can't speak today. Speaking of, click that subscribe button. When I first started the show, barely anyone tuned in. Well, my family. And I know I speak faster than Ben Shapiro, more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But as I've got more subscribers, I've been slightly better at speaking. Some people might joke and say barely any, but I would argue, statistically speaking, better. So click that button and tell your friends and your enemies. Your enemies might be so enamored and impressed by your choice of podcast material that they then become your friends, or they're even so much more pissed off because you suggested this, in which case it becomes a physical altercation, so maybe I shouldn't recommend it. Either way, make for an interesting conversation to have with them. So again, tell your friends and tell your enemies and click that subscribe button. So again, the Colorado in here says, quote, marijuana was part of the horrifying downfall of our state, getting 623 likes, which I think at 57 comments, was he ratioed? Commerce Creates Peace responded saying, quote, I always challenge people who say, look at Colorado to support their pro-marijuana agenda to provide photos of physical improvements. Actual buildings on our parks were built on tax revenue. To date, no one has. Getting 9 likes. Now, he responds saying, quote, that's because they ruined it with marijuana and other Democrat policies. The policies are extremely anti-family, getting 9 likes. Let's see. Sean Kelly says, what does horrifying downfall mean to you? He says, quote, dismal schools, activist teachers, pricey housing, crime, homelessness, regulations, abortion of full-grown babies, barely passable pothole roads. In short, a culture of failing. Getting 19 likes. And the fact that he didn't say potholes with a pun intended, that is a crime in and of itself. Which again is, so many of these politicians will say, "Oh yeah, we'll tax it, we'll be millionaires," which it seemed to be true for a New York minute, and then the money kind of just moves around, and then not so much. Jack Flynn says, quote, it's hard to convince losers that smoke pot, that pot is bad for society, getting 94 likes. Which, I think that in terms of the stereotype or the cliche of the pothead loser, I think that's actually going away. And again, there are some people who are insufferable, and they make it their whole personality. Everyone knows at least one of those guys. But I mean, I know people that are extremely fiscally and successful, and also successful in metrics of, job, community, family. There are a couple guys I know who partake in what my grandpa would probably call the devil's lettuce. So, I mean, I don't have to say they're all losers. Again, there are some people, just like alcohol, get hopelessly dependent upon marijuana and becomes their entire personality. And they'll never shut up about William Randolph Hearst and how it is all conspiracy and how hemp is so magical. We should make everything about, yeah. We've all got those insufferable friends. Now, you also have, I Love American News says, quote, meanwhile in California, and it's a picture of AOC crying, says, when your weed is late because the 10-year-old picking it got rescued by ICE. Get 101 likes, which, yeah, that didn't get a lot of not get as many headlines as it should in California, where, it turns out, some of the kids working on those pot farms were illegal and, kids. Vince says, quote, it's not the criteria, Matt. Name one person that has been measurably improved by alcohol. This is a freedom issue. It should be my decision. And if I can act responsible adult, what the hell is it of any of your business for? Getting 396 likes, which, again, I would say, unlike alcohol, I mean, unless you're pouring it into someone's mouth, it doesn't affect people around you in terms of, secondhand alcohol. You could argue secondhand smoke. Personally, I think you should be able to smoke in more places, though I don't partake myself in terms of just, average cigarettes. But was he ratioed? Again, he got 396 likes. Age of Ruin says, quote, who cares if this psychotic crackhead is shooting up near the elementary school? It's his freedom, getting 16 likes. Now, Vince does say, straw man, I'm not talking about shooting hardcore drugs, nor near an elementary school, just like Matt isn't talking about shooting tequila in the school hallway, getting 26 likes, which, school would have been a lot more interesting if the teachers were inebriated. I'm obviously kidding. But yeah, in terms of a lot of my libertarian friends, let them say, it's your body, you should be able to partake in marijuana. Now, in terms of, will the government ever really allow it? One of the reasons I am pessimistic, not just because to a lot of people it's an election topic, which I shouldn't roll my eyes. Everyone has things that are important to them. I just think it's kind of silly for that to be very integral. For that to be one of the most important things in your life. But nevertheless, it's one of those instances where, alcohol kind of got that grandfather in. It's been around for so long. But again, in terms of, you could have alcohol on the kitchen table. It's not going to affect kids. Marijuana, when it's lit up, at least tobacco, you become more articulate and more, it's, kind of increases your productivity, you could argue. Again, not healthy for you, but yeah, in terms of, what the hell is it business to you? I think, kind of cliche to say, but man, the older I get, the older I almost think that gal from The Simpsons had a point where she always cries, think of the children. Because in some ways, I think marijuana, if you had a city where just single people, I think there'd be less people concerned about it. Or if it was just like a bachelor pad, no, I don't think a lot of people would care. I think it's when you have the whole city reeking and smelling like weed, and you have people doing it in the streets, you have kids that are around. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are against legalization. Also, a reason why I'm pessimistic, will the U.S. government actually legalize it completely? I don't suspect so because of money. Now, a lot of states are saying, we'll make tax revenue off of it. Some of them are. But again, I don't know. I've been told it's easy to grow. The government can't tax it in that case. So that's actually one of my theories of why the government might not ever fully allow people to make it themselves or legalize, because of they wouldn't get the tax revenue off of it. I said Mike Brown said weed is just as bad or worse than other drugs, getting 80 likes, which I don't think it's worse than other drugs. I mean, I don't think the average person thinks weed is worse than like coke or like the painkillers that the big pharma gives people. Positive Christianity says, quote, this is another step to tear down the family and social structure. Weed smoking men don't become dads, and weed smoking dads don't show up, getting 121 likes, which, I don't do drugs. Well, I guess coffee has caffeine, so that's one. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, if you're a dad, I don't think you should be doing that. Let's see here. UF says, quote, what American city has been measurably improved by the war on drugs, getting 261 likes? Yeah. I mean, again, if the dealers are off the streets, I think that's a good thing. The Fed Up Chef says, prohibitions use the same weak argument for alcohol too. You don't get to say, or us say, in how I live my life, getting 98 likes. Then Blackburn says, quote, people who smoke pot will make every excuse in the world, same with alcoholics, getting 106 likes. Let's see. Jimmy Bones says, just to remind everyone, the government thinks meth, cocaine, Adderall, and other opioids are safer than marijuana, which, yeah, I think that is kind of crazy. That did get 5 likes. So again, I almost debate if this topic will ever be put to rest or if it'll ever be, legal one way or the other. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Hamtramck Councilman Abu Musa allegedly shown stuffing ballots in the mail where he won by 76 votes? Pretty tight margin. Now, this sparked us things to end wokeness, and he says, quote, breaking, Hamtramck Councilman Abu Musa is on tape stuffing a box with stacks of mail ballots. Abu won by less than 76 votes. Which, it's a boring sedan. Such a drop off. We're looking at the cool McLaren F1, and then the iconic next one with the S1LM. Now I gotta see this abomination of a vehicle. But nevertheless, that's not the substance of the vehicle, or substance of, the show for this segment.
New video obtained by Local 4 shows 2 men in a black car days before the August primary. A passenger starts handing ballots to an unidentified driver, who then stuffs them into the city's drop box, in total dumping 3 large stacks before driving away. Sources tell Local 4 the passenger appears to be current council member Abu Musa, the same council member that is currently seeking re-election and rose to the top with more than 1,100 votes in last week's primary. He's also the council member accused of not living in Hamtramck and the council member named in the 2023 election fraud case. However, he was never charged.
However, he was never charged. Which, I think a more interesting thing also, a place in the U.S. called Hamtramck. But nevertheless, all seriousness, this can't possibly be happening. We were told it was impossible for ballot stuffing or ballot harvesting. It's impossible. No. Democrats said this doesn't happen. And this got about 800,000 views and 35,000 likes, which, yeah, I don't think anyone's surprised. It is pretty crazy to think that pretty much every country on the planet has said no mail-in voting, but the U.S. goes, yeah, that's a good idea. Again, I think you should have to vote in person, with the only exception being active military soldiers overseas and the astronauts. Yeah, that's about it. I think everyone, unless you're on your deathbed, is physically capable to getting to the voting ballot box. And considering how much, one of the most important things that affects our lives, yeah, maybe you should take a little effort to actually just drive it. It's so easy too. It's literally on the way to and from work. It boggles my mind how people say, oh, it's prohibitively difficult to go vote. Is it? I mean, you could walk to a place. They're all over but yeah, it's ridiculous. And again, this got about 800,000 views when the first comments come to us, thanks to Paul Zupa saying, quote, but I thought Democrats said they never cheat in elections, getting 1.5 thousand likes. Dr. Shari says, quote, this is exactly why voter ID and paper ballots are non-negotiable. No more shady community leaders rigging outcomes while pretending to represent the people. Getting 687 likes. You have Base Electrician, who says, quote, stop using these dirtbags. They hate America and everything it stands for. Getting 223 likes, and a funny screenshot of that councilman which I don't have much ground to stand on in terms of, oh, look, a awkward looking screenshot, because, yeah, truth be told, everyone on video has awkward screenshots where they look weird or funny, although some have disproportionate more than others, like me. Now, you also have the conservative alternative. It says, quote, so that thing Democrats claim never happened again. It's the Make-A-Wish logo, and it's got the old, 2020 election results where they were counting the ballots, and all of a sudden, boom, you get the Biden spike, which statistically speaking was impossible. Gained 172 likes. American Pop Bear says, quote, free and fair, huh? Gained 251 likes. Amelia Henderson says, quote, that's ballot stuffing treason for my wannabe power leech. 76 votes stolen is still robbery, and this fraud should be in prison, stripped of every public dime. Getting 109 likes. Base Nutrition also says, quote, if you Google Abu Musa instead of U.S. politician, you get an island in Iran. Getting 99 likes. Which, again, don't have much ground to stand on. My name is Topping, like the pizza, or thanks to the YouTube comments, it means something else as well. I shan't dive any deeper. You also have Dr. Lorson Wolf saying, quote, so they're just openly committing election fraud on camera now, and nothing's happening. This is why people don't trust the system anymore. Gain 1.5 thousand likes. You also have Joey FAFO says, quote, when a liberal woman brings out this hand gesture, get ready to hear the worst take in your life, which, I don't know why these liberal girls are doing the thing where their hand is like holding a, it looks like it's like a claw hand. And they all have those soulless, weird eyes that leftists are known for. Getting 400 likes. Sasquatch, I guess he is real. He is real, and he is on X. Now, Sasquatch has a picture of Gene Wilder from, the iconic Willy Wonka. It says, things that never happens has happened again, huh? Getting 82 likes. Spitfire says, but we were reliably told this didn't happen. Getting 413 likes. Green Lives Matter. It says Democrats only win by cheating. This is who they are. Getting 258 likes. Mad Beaner says, it seems like this might be harder to do if we had the same day in-person voting. Just saying. If Abu is a naturalized citizen, his citizenship should be revoked immediately. Getting 294 likes. Let's see. Alpha Bravo says, Cash and Pam need to put these people in prison for life. Getting 148 likes. I'm sure they will be jetting on the spot right after they finish their work on the Epstein files, which you have to say I'm pretty pessimistic to think there's going to be any political ramifications for this guy, and if he'll even be investigated. We'll see, but yeah, I'm not too surprised, and let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. I'm going over to the business blunder of the day. You have the ESR Halolock wireless charger being recalled because, might burst into flames. Now, brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, granted, pretty low bar, and they say, quote, ESR Halolock wireless powered banks recalled due to a fire and burn hazards distributed by Waymeet. Here you can see one of those funny little chargers there. Hunk of black plastic, or plastique if you want to sound fancy, which, especially pertinent, I actually had to text one of my buddies, be like, hey, remember that fun little toy you're using? That little wireless charger? Yeah, it turns out, throw it away. No, obviously, in a safe manner since there's lithium in there. Now, they say, quote, the lithium ion in the recalled battery banks can overheat and ignite, posing a risk of fire and burn hazards to consumers, affecting 24,000 units. They say that consumers should immediately stop using the recalled power banks and contact Waymeet for a full refund. Consumers will be asked to send their information to support at esrtech.com, their order number, though not required, and a photo of the recalled power bank showing the model number and the word recalled written in permanent marker. Consumers should dispose of their power banks in accordance with local and state hazardous waste disposal regulations. Because again, it's lithium, pretty volatile. Now, they note that, they were not getting ahead of the situation. Recall, already hurt some people. They say the firm has received 9 reports of the lithium-ion battery catching fire and exploding, resulting in property damage of about $20,000. However, silver lining, no injuries have been reported at this time. So, again, there's a silver lining. No one's been hurt. That's good. Though, again, $20,000 in property damage ain't great. These are sold at Amazon.com, HomeDepot.com, and ESRTech.com from September 2023 through July 2025 for between $32 and $40. They're manufactured also in China, as Trump would say. And yeah, that's one of the things you got to be really careful when you're buying some of these lithium-ion chargers. And it's one of the few areas where I wouldn't cheap out on it. I wouldn't recommend it because, again, if you don't do the proper safety protocols for these things, lithium is extremely volatile and things can heat up pretty quickly. Pun obviously intended. So, I gotta say, ESR, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.